All right, folks, we are back once again with Erika, the publisher and editor of The Cricket, coming to us from her office in downtown Manchester by the Sea. How are you, Erika?
I love it when you say that. It's like the
Yeah.
global headquarters.
You can feel the buzz, the town buzz.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
right outside that door.
Yeah, yeah. What do you have for us this week?
Well, we do have a lot of stuff that happened actually in the last week. A lot of it is sort of continuations of things that we are all familiar with. I'm thinking of like the Elder Brethren met last week. It's like the 146th year that the Elder Brethren, that name is hilarious. The Elder Brethren. It's
Yeah.
been around since the 1800s, 1870s. And what's hilarious about it, in 1870, if you were 49 years old, you were considered an Elder Brethren.
Yeah, that was geriatric. That was
And now, like today, 49 is a new 29. So what do you do? So they had it this year, and they had sort of this, I'm not sure if it was a record turnout because, of course, I'm a woman and I don't go to the Elder Brethren, but I would if I were a man. But they had, I think, like 70 guys there this year, and I don't know if that's a record, but it certainly felt like one, even because the last several years, a ton of people just haven't been doing this because of COVID. So it felt good. The weather was great. This, of course, is the annual tradition that is getting together for chowder, for a picnic, where the men get together, celebrate each other, and have a great time. It's dubbed, and this is not my nickname, it's the nickname they've had over the years, the old man's picnic.
Yeah,
And over the
yeah.
years, they've had US senators speak, they've had luminaries like Kory Curcuru speak.
Right, right. They were lucky. They were lucky, those guys.
Yeah, and this year I think it was the father of the ALS activist, the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Peter Frates, his father, yeah.
Exactly. Peter Frady spoke, and there's a great picture of Joe Wilworth, who is the president, I think, right now of the Elder Brethren, getting dunked by Eric Backery with the
Oh,
ice bucket.
cool.
It's right in the middle. So we had that on the front page. And Gordon McDougal, who is 99, I believe. He may be 98. I apologize if I got that wrong, but I think he's 99. Gordon McDougal, who has been the eldest, he's gotten the Boston Post cane many times in Manchester. And of course, they don't have that tradition anymore because the Elder Brethren actually came up with the idea a couple of years ago to donate that to the town so that the eldest resident, male or female, could get it. And so Gordon had been getting it, but Dee Burrows was older than him, even though he was getting the cane. Well, now he got the cane from the Elder Brethren, and that happened at the luncheon. And I guess that leads into the second thing that I wanted to tell you, which is that
Hmm.
Alice Nahatis, this is of course not the Elder Brethren anymore, but Alice Nahatis, who is 100 years old, on Saturday, last Saturday, she turned 100 years old. She was presented by this week with the Boston Post cane as being Manchester's eldest resident. It was at her home. She's such a beautiful lady. She's gorgeous. And she got it. She was so happy. She said, thank you. It was at her home. She's the first female in Manchester's history to receive the Boston Post cane, which is fantastic. So it's a new tradition to have the eldest resident. Essex gives it to the eldest resident, the Boston Post cane, regardless of gender. So they've been doing, other towns do. Boston Post cane, of course, has been around for 113 years. And it's a beautiful gold topped cane, ebony cane that's given by municipalities to their oldest resident. And Alice Nahatis got it this year. So congratulations to her.
Yeah, very cool. Cheers to her.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was really nice.
Erica, what is going on with all these sprinklers going off in Manchester?
It's so funny you say sprinklers because irrigation really is the problem, I guess.
Yeah.
But remember, like when we were in Essex and we were talking, when you and Heather were broadcasting from Ripple on the Water,
Hmm.
and I was there, and we had just written a story about sort of this preliminary check-in that the Manchester's, and this is a temporary board because it's only in force for 18 months, but there's a task force called the Water Resources Protection Task Force. It sounds so official. That has been meeting with the idea of sort of protecting our water resources and protecting water. The beginning of the year, we kicked it off saying water was going to be a big deal this year. We did this history of water. We interviewed Chuck Dam and da da da. Well, but when we were together in Essex, we had just gotten the figures on, I had just gotten the figures on the top 10, 20 water users, commercial and residential, which is a very interesting thing for overall for the last, like, since they've been collecting data. And we saw that there were 3 private homes in Manchester, 3 private homes, each one of which individually used more water per year than the 3,000 member Manchester Athletic Club. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. It was
it was crazy.
astonishing.
It was astonishing is the right word. And then also we learned that in the top 10, the number 10 biggest water user in Manchester is the school system. It's the school district. It's the Manchester Essex Regional High School. We learned that there's 6 homes that individually use more than they do all year. All right, so Steve Gang is the president, not president, I'm sorry, the chairman of the Water Task Force. And he gave the preliminary definitive report on residential use. And guess what? Manchester is the 8th worst municipality in the state of Massachusetts among, for per capita gallonage per day usage, right? It's unbelievable. We're the 8th worst out of 287 municipalities. So and here's the good news though. And this is probably, we saw this from that top 20 list. 16% of the homes in Manchester use 50% of the water. And 50% of the homes use 26% of the water. So that tells you everything. The good news is if you want to change behavior and become environmental stewards, and by the way, my guess is those people, say that, those 6 homes that I just referred to, I'll bet every single one of them, A, they don't realize they're in the top 10. They don't understand that they use as much water as they do. And number 2, I'll bet they all consider themselves stewards of the environment. I bet they drive Teslas. I'll bet they, I bet they really consider themselves really good people. And the truth is you don't want to demonize them, but guess what? Their behavior is their behavior.
Yeah.
So anyway, the report was really interesting. I encourage people to read it. Go online to the town's website, go onto the Cricket, you can read the article. It talks about, it shows how seasonally we hockey stick up, which is not unusual. So therefore the sprinklers that you brought up, it's all about pools and irrigation.
Yeah. Why make the drive to Wet and Wild at Canopy Lake Park when you can just go to Manchester?
Well, I don't think those people would allow you to come on to their property.
This is true, yeah. My slip and slide is ready though. It's always in the trunk.
but I guess the good news, if there is good news, which there is I guess threefold. Number 1, it's such a tight list of people who are skewing the behavior that it actually means there's a tight list that you can communicate to encourage them to change their behavior. Now, if they don't change their behavior voluntarily, what's really going on is the Water Task Force is going to now really start to examine fee structures. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that fee structures right now, the biggest, highest users, those hockey stick people, they're subsidizing everybody else because their rates are so high. And their attitude is, I'm wealthy, I can pay for the money, I can afford the water, what's the problem, right? Not thinking that we're talking about reserve, our water protection. However, the fee structure, it depends on that. That's the problem. So all of the water and sewer infrastructure improvements are being paid for by the highest users, and they're subsidizing everybody else. So what they need to do is they need to look at essentially a baseline assessment, an assessment of what's it going to cost to keep our pipes current, to get ahead of the infrastructure issues that we have for our water and sewer, and then have a fee structure that tries to encourage good behavior. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what that means is they really now need to get creative about looking at what other communities are doing, because we're not alone. I mean, as much as I like to say we're, that the statistics say that we're alone, across the country, water is a big issue, and we don't have a problem with our water supply. We really don't. Manchester doesn't have a problem with its water supply. I'm gonna say that again. Manchester does not have a problem with its water supply. This is all very proactive. So if you want to really think about 40 years out, 30 years out, you got to think about these things, and they're doing it. It's just really dramatic. That's all. I mean, it's dramatic and it's arresting. You hear these numbers and you're like, what? Especially because you think of Manchester as being so forward thinking and, all this stuff. But guess what? The data tells a story.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, well said. Erika, you wanted to talk about a notable
Oh,
resident
yeah, Slim
recently.
Proctor.
Yeah.
Esther Proctor has died. I just want to say it really quickly, because she was quietly a big change agent, I guess. She was just a kind of under the radar personality. But if you look at her life, she died at 99 a couple weeks back, and we have her obituary this week. She was so involved with so many things. She was she was a curator for decades, working every day at the Manchester Historical Museum, and yet she was also at the library. She was a librarian both at the Memorial School and at the public library. And then she was also really involved. She was a founder, among other people. I don't want to give her sole credit, but she was definitely a founder of the Manchester Arts Association, the Manchester Sailing Association. She led restoration, very important community restoration events like the Seaside One. You're familiar with Seaside One?
Yeah.
Slim Proctor. You're familiar with Crowell Chapel and about how that happened with CPC money and everything
Oh,
like that?
right. Yeah.
She was very involved with that. The Powder House Hill Reservation. Slim Proctor was very involved. So she was really involved with just things that were all community. So I just wanted to give her credit and for a life well lived.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicely put, Erika. Okay, thanks for your time. We will catch you this time next week.
Bye, Kory.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.